Hi, and welcome to part two of Rock the Talk. Today, we are going to talk about having open, honest, and real conversations with our kids who are in about grade school. So that's from about 5 years up until that preteen age. So at this age, our children are learning a lot from their peers, from media, and we as parents are left wondering what input we need to put in. How do we keep our kids safe without using scare tactics? They come up with a lot of questions, some that maybe we aren't comfortable answering or we aren't sure how. So we're going to talk about that. And at this age, a lot of times we're leaving our kids alone with other peers, with coaches and teachers and summer camps. And we want to make sure that we're having safe conversations and empowering our kids to be successful in whatever they do. So again, I'm going to share a screen with you. And this way you can follow along as we talk, as we discuss some of our conversations that we're going to have with our children. Okay, and again, I will provide contact information for myself if you're wanting to have any contact, further education, or any questions about the program, and for our sexual assault counselor as well that's in Yorkton. So we're going to talk about 11 keys to sexual health and safety with our kids. We are going to talk a little bit about sexual reproduction today, about bullying and how that ties in with sexual assault, building family boundaries, so boundaries within our home. And if you did watch our presentation from yesterday, our Rock the Talk for 2 to 5-year-olds, you'll remember that our model behavior is the best example for our kids to follow. So setting boundaries at home and with family is the best way to get them to model behavior outside the home. Bribes and special treatment from people, even people that they care about, inappropriate affection or accidental touching, promises that can be broken. We're going to talk a little bit about people in authority, creating a code word, teaching kids how to talk to strangers, and also some true stories about stranger danger situations. So that's what you can look forward to learning today. And again, please contact me any questions that you have. We're going to try to keep this really simple, fun, and informative, because talking about health and sexual safety is not a scary subject. It's something that we want to be very natural within our families. We want to have very natural conversations with our children. Okay, so about ages 7 to 10, most professionals are agreeing that it's time to start talking about puberty and sexual intercourse to our children. This has a lot to do with your comfort level. Again, books are great resources. If you don't feel comfortable saying it, read a story. Your child most likely will actually lead the conversation. They are very open to talking about their bodies, especially if you've already said that that's a safe thing to do with you as a parent. Okay, so it's better to start earlier than later. Children are starting to be influenced younger and younger by social media. They have those tablets right there. And a lot of times the things that they're viewing really do talk about sexuality. They talk about sexual intercourse, about puberty. And not all the information they're getting is necessarily correct. I think we know that. But they're getting this from their siblings, their friends, and this media. Okay. Providing an opportunity to share information in an open and nurturing way means they'll be less embarrassed coming to us to talk with us. Their bodies start changing at a very young age, as young as about 9 years old. So preparing them for those changes that are coming up, make it something that they can be proud of. Our bodies are such amazing things, and teaching our children that puberty and our changes in our body are something to be proud of and to talk about with our parents, not something to be ashamed about. Studies show that children who are educated about sex by their parents are more likely to not be sexually active at as young of an age. Ooh, tongue twister for me today. Okay, so we can explain the purpose of sex and then a special nature of sex, and they're more likely to have greater respect for it, for themselves, and for other people. Okay, so talking about automatic responses, and I think this is a really, really important conversation to have. Our bodies can be stimulated without our control. It's really important that we let our children know this, because a lot of times If there is an assault that happens and their bodies have a natural reaction to sexual touching, a child will feel very at fault and ashamed and embarrassed and possibly to blame. But just because a feeling is pleasurable doesn't mean you want it to happen. So explaining to your children that they may have natural body responses, and that doesn't mean they have to do it, okay? So when you are able to have really honest conversations about this, it really does have helpful effects when a child is trying to disclose, to talk about their safety, and just educating children about the responses of their body and that our bodies are completely normal. Bullying. Now, I know you're probably like, well, why are we talking about bullying? I thought we're talking about sexual health and safety. Many times bullying does come into this, okay? So some common characteristics of bullying is a positive attitude towards violence, wanting to dominate others. Sexual abuse is very rarely actually about sex. It is about power over another person, okay? Impulsive and aggressive behavior and lack of empathy. Okay, so just being mindful that these are behaviors we are trying to address and look at it in our children and change them to teach empathy, to teach consent, to teach a positive attitude towards safety and respect, not towards violence. Now, talking about family boundaries, this is really important. Sibling abuse is actually one of the most underrated forms of child abuse. So understanding sexuality and understanding puberty can be very confusing for children, which is why they try to explore. So establishing firm boundaries at home is very important. So privacy in the bathroom when you're changing at bedtime, having discussions with your kids about body urges, okay, and about consent. And that even means sometimes talking about masturbation with children at a very young age, because it's not something that they necessarily need to be ashamed about, and they have to understand what that is as well. So next we're going to talk about bribes and special treatment. Okay. In our last video on Rock the Talk for Young Children, we said don't ever accept gifts unless you ask a parent. This continues over. So anytime someone wants to give us special treatment or let us do something that none of the other kids are allowed to do, or gives us gifts, the question always is why, right? As parents, at least our question should be why. Why does our child deserve that special treatment? So we really do want to look at it in that way and teach our kids not to accept gifts from acquaintances, strangers, etc., without talking to us first. It's just a boundary that's really safe to set, because a lot of times saying, oh, I'll give you this as long as you don't tell anyone, eventually turns into bribes or blackmail as they get older. So the use of drugs and alcohol, so providing those, and then a child is often afraid to tell because then they'll get in trouble, right? It gives us a sense of fear. So if they accept something from someone, reminding them that it's not their fault and we still want them to tell us. So it's never too late to change your mind. It's never too late to come forward with a problem, even if you think that you did something wrong too. That we are askable parents, that we say that their safety, even if there was some confusion in there, is always the most important thing on our agenda. Hey, inappropriate affection and accidental touching. We're going to talk a little bit about this, just because accidentally touching or bumping or rubbing a child is often testing, right? So when a person of authority, so you have say a coach, a teacher, a group leader, that really tests the child's ability to speak for themselves. So they accidentally do something. So if the child tells them to stop, they know where the child's boundaries are, or if they don't, they know where the child's boundaries are. Or if they tell us, they know where the child's boundaries are, or if they don't, right? So they might really test out accidental touching to see what happens, where the child's voice is in there. So have a conversation with your kids. Tell them it's important that they communicate to you about touch, even accidental touch. Remind them to trust those gut feelings and those body warning signs. Trust your gut instinct. If you feel unsafe, listen. Okay. So we already set some safety rules in the last presentation. If you didn't have a chance to view it, go back and check it out today. It's still available. So children should know that it's against body safety rules for someone to ask to keep a secret from you. As a parent, as a guardian, we have the right to know any secrets about our children. Any promise that involves breaking body safety rules or any inappropriate behavior is a promise that should be broken. We can have this conversation with our kids. Promises can be broken to keep you or someone you love safe. This includes if their friends disclose to them that someone is hurting them. Okay, so many times children, they won't always necessarily go to an adult, no matter how much we practice being askable parents. A lot of times our children don't come to us. Okay, so if another child says, hey, someone's hurting me, make sure your child knows how to handle that, that you can say, okay, and you can break that promise if it's to keep your friends safe. Okay, it's always right to get a trusted adult to help you. Love doesn't keep secrets, and promises can get broken if someone is getting hurt. Okay, so this is a conversation I have with my kids, and it's so simple, okay? It is always right to tell a trusted adult and get help if something's bothering you. Love doesn't make you keep secrets, and promises can get broken if someone is being hurt. Pretty easy, and kids really understand that wording. As parents, those conversations aren't always easy for us to have. We aren't born knowing how to have this talk about sexual health and safety with our kids. So we can practice it too, practice it with a partner, practice it with a friend. You could stand in front of a mirror too and practice it. Whatever you need. If you want to have this conversation and you aren't quite ready, take a minute, take a couple days to really go over how you want to address it or how you want to bring up the conversation. Maybe it's leading with a story that you're going to read. Maybe there's something going on in the news that you can discuss. Okay, or maybe you can just sit down and initiate a conversation. Okay, so next we're going to talk about people of authority. So I'd said again, and keep referencing back to the last Rock the Talk, but the easiest conversation to have is about stranger danger, right? It's easy to say, don't talk to strangers, stay away from strangers. They could hurt you, they could take you. It's a lot harder to have conversations about the people in our lives, in our homes, in our circle of trusted adults, in our adults with authority. And a lot of times that's the conversation we actually need to be having with our kids, okay? By grade school, you're getting ready to let your child have a little bit of freedom. You want them to go for sleepovers. You want them to get involved with different groups and programs, and that's great. Okay, that's why practicing those boundaries up to this point and continuing on from this point is so, so important. Okay, so your child most likely will know some of the adults in their life better than you do. They probably know their coach better. They probably know their camp leader better than you do. So again, it's really about having open, honest, and empowering conversation with your kids, especially those younger adults who are like way cooler than you, right? That youth leader that is just not a parent yet, so they're kind of cool. And they really probably love getting extra attention from other adults, especially if they have a bunch of siblings or something, right? So again, build that bond, have communication. So even though you don't necessarily know those adults as well as your child does, we can still know about the relationship that adult and that child has. So have a talk with your kids. Let your child know that they should tell you if other adults ever initiate physical contact that seems appropriate or even doesn't seem appropriate. Like maybe, I don't know, Mr. So-and-so is such a hugger, right? Just be like, oh, who else does he hug, right? Bringing that up. If that adult is ever talking with them about inappropriate things, then you don't even have to word it like that. So, I always want you to tell me if other adults talk to you about kissing or about your private parts or about alcohol and drugs even. And we don't need to freak out if our child says, hey, so-and-so talked about making out, right? So again, when we say that they're safe to have these conversations with us, we have to model when they start testing us and they say, hey, so-and-so talked about this, or this happened in so-and-so's life. We have to be able to breathe it in and try have that modeled response that we're trying to build the relationship with. Hey, if an adult is ever trying to contact your child via text message, through Facebook or social media, whatever outlet that is, we want our child to tell us if any adults ever try to add them. Or like my rule in my house is my kids aren't allowed to add anyone to social media unless they ask me first, kids included. Or if this adult tries to spend alone time with your child, like, oh, they took just me for a walk, or only I'm allowed to go to the leader cabin, or whatever it is. So really making sure that just because we don't know the adults in our child's life doesn't mean we can't know the relationship that adults and your child are having. So just have those conversations, and that happens continually too, right? I said again in that last presentation, a sex talk is not a sit on the edge of the bed, we're going to talk about birds and the bees and about stranger danger. It's an ongoing relationship. It's an ongoing conversation with our kids. It is talking about relationships and what power and authority is, and why maybe that stops us from coming forward, but how we will keep them safe, and their safety is most important. Okay. We really want to empower our children to understand that there are bad people that exist, and we recognize that as parents, and now they're smart enough to recognize that as kids as well, and to understand that that behavior is wrong. Not only does it protect them, but it also teaches them consent at a very young age. So as they grow up, they can be modeling healthy behavior in relationships as well. Okay. And they also can give advice to other kids to talk to a trusted adult when things happen. We are going to talk about strangers, because as much as I said, this is probably the smaller version of the conversation we actually need to have with our kids, we still need to have that conversation, right? They can't be jumping in a vehicle with something they don't know. So saying that a child can never talk to a stranger actually may put them at risk if they find themselves in a situation where they're in danger and they need some type of public assistance. So we don't want to scare our kids. We don't want to scare our kids of other adults. We don't want to scare our kids of strangers. We want to give them facts. We want to have honest conversation. Bad people exist. Sometimes good people do bad things. Okay, right? Again, the last conversation we had, we talked that we don't call offenders monsters, because it really does make them question the person that they love that hurt them. Then maybe they never meant to, or maybe they should protect them, right? So saying that good people do bad things, right? So strangers, we shouldn't be afraid of them, but we should talk about some dangers that are involved with strangers as well, and some safety precautions. We can teach our kids how to have safe and healthy conversations. You can say hi to someone in line. You can ask someone for the time. Should we go to their vehicle though? Okay. If someone makes us feel uncomfortable, what are our bodies doing? How are our bodies reacting? When they're old enough, teaching them our phone number. There are like cute little ID bracelets you can get with our phone numbers on them too, for when they're little, so they can read them. But teaching our kids our phone numbers and how to get a hold of us, so that they can call us if they get lost, and who are safe strangers that they would go to in a scary situation. So it is showing that most likely your safest stranger would be someone in a uniform, or a mom with a child present, right? So that would be someone that you might want to teach your kid that they could go to, never entering their home or their vehicle though. Okay. And just letting your child know the safest way to get a hold of you, or how to keep themselves safe. So whatever that looks like in your home, in your community. Okay. So statistically, stranger danger is more rare, but we do need to teach them this just the same. Practicing is the best way to build that muscle memory. So actually going over situations. What would you do if this happened? Maybe even acting it out if you want to. Having them practice yelling no and which way they would run. Who are safe people in their community? Like if you do live in a small community, I live in a small community, so what houses would be safe spots that they could get to? Okay. Maybe staying together in a buddy system in public might be a good idea, and how you can be proactive through lures of dangerous people. Okay. So you know your community best, you know your child best, dangers best. Have the conversations, right? We don't need to be afraid to talk to our kids, and we also don't need to scare them. We just need to be real with them, and they respect and appreciate that. So that's the end of our second Rock the Talk. Hopefully you found this empowering as a parent to prepare you to have some conversations, some real conversations with your kiddos. And again, like I said, I did provide some information on phone numbers for the sexual assault counseling program in Yorkton through SIGN, and then my number as well for sexual assault outreach. I really enjoyed talking to you, and good luck with your conversations with your kids.